This is For My Sons, a space where we equip men to lead themselves, their families, and their communities with strength and wisdom. I'm your host, Papa O, a father, a husband, a son, and a student of life. Here, we dive into all the topics that shape the development of men. Lessons, stories, and principles you can use to strengthen your family and impact your community. If you're passionate about becoming a better man, building a better family, and leaving a better world, you're in the right place. Let's jump into today's conversation. Welcome back, my sons, and to all the men and fathers tuning in today. If you've been walking with me on this journey, you will know we've spoken about communication, respect, responsibility, and self-discipline, amongst other topics. This is the beginning of a new season that is focused on racial identity and the topics that extend from that. Now, if this is not something that you'd like to listen to, as it doesn't resonate with you, I completely understand, and I'll be back to more universal topics from episode 20 onwards. As I previously pointed out, the entire premise of this podcast is for my sons, who so happen to be black. So if I don't talk about this topic, I'd be ill preparing them for the realities of life. I'm not here to say what is right or wrong on the topic. I'm just here to state it is a reality they will come across. Now, why am I talking about this so early? Well, it's because it's an unfortunate and uncomfortable reality that a child will experience some form of racism very early on in life. Let me give you an example. Let's say your child, who is 4, is playing with a toy at a soft play location, and another child, who is around 7 or 8, comes across to them and tries to grab the toy off them because they're bigger and they feel they can physically overpower your child. Your child defends themselves and refuse to give the toy up. As the older child doesn't get the toy, they use a racial slur as they walk away in frustration. Luckily, your child is oblivious to the slur, as they have never previously come across that term, and you circumnavigate it when they ask you directly what it means, because you know that's a deeper conversation for another time. And a 4-year-old does not possess the mental maturity to be able to grasp such abstract concepts as of yet. Do you blame the older child for that reaction to not get in their way? You could, but the burden of accountability is more so on their parents for fostering such an environment where language like that is deemed acceptable in the first place. So today, we're deep diving into something that threads through every part of who you are, your racial identity. Now, I want you to imagine a mighty tree. Its roots stretch deep into the earth, unseen but essential. Without those roots, that tree can't stand tall. Your identity is your root. And today, we're going to water it, understand it, and embrace it fully. The Yoruba proverb of the day is "Bi odo ba gun jinna, ko ni gbagbe orisun re," which translates as, however far a stream flows, it never forgets its source. Meaning, no matter how far you go in life, no matter how successful or distant you become, you must always remember your origins and where you come from. This keeps you grounded and connected to your true self. So what is racial identity? Well, when people hear racial identity, they often think it's just about skin color. But it's so much more than that. It's about your heritage, your ancestors' culture, the music they sang, the food they cooked, the way they moved through the world with resilience. Racial identity is your internal compass. It shapes how you see yourself and how you move through a world that sometimes tries to tell you who you should be. It's the stories your grandmother told you, the proverbs that echo in your mind, the languages that might have been stolen or forgotten but still live in your blood. Now, one thing I want to point out here is that it is very easy to just oversimplify it to being about skin color. Now, when I was growing up, one example that my mum would always do, or one thing that my mum would always get me to do, is that she'd tell me to go and look in the mirror. And I'm randomly watching TV at the time, yeah? and she'd tell me to go look in the mirror and then come back to me. Now, initially I thought, I was like, is there something on my face? And she's just not telling me. Like, why am I having to leave the lounge, go all the way upstairs to go and check my face? Anyway, would go upstairs, come back down. She said, what did you see? And I'd be like, I saw me. And she was like, okay, what else did you see? And she was like, I want you to tell me specifically what you saw. And I said, all right, fine. I mean, I saw a guy that's black, good hair and all this stuff. She's like, I'm glad you said that. You are black. Never forget it. Now, notice how I said at the beginning of this that it's not just about skin color. It isn't. And the reason why I mention this again is because it was what my mum was trying to articulate, which she could not, which I'm trying to articulate to you, is that there is, in my case, of course, I'm black, right? So it is a case of there is a lot more behind the skin. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Now, how your parents and your grandparents might have been able to translate that message across to you is to just be, you are this. So as such, they couldn't tell you what that actually meant to be that, right? It's one thing to say, how do I put this? It is one thing to say that you are black. It is another thing for someone to try and explain to you what that actually means. And I'm saying from at least where I'm sitting, right? That when your parents are trying to tell you something, you have to understand that they might not be able to articulate that in the best way possible for you to understand. So when they say, or when my mum said, you are black, what she was meaning to say was, you are black. You have a history behind you. You have a heritage behind you. You have another language. You have your ancestors' culture. And by ancestors, God knows that word gets used a lot. Ancestors, it could be as simple as your grandparents and up. It could even be your parents and up. Right? It's just to say that you are coming from somewhere. Okay? Don't you forget that moving forward. So, please understand that sometimes when your parents, your aunties, your uncles, your grandparents are trying to deliver a message to you, sometimes they're going to give it to you in an incomplete form because they themselves don't know how to tell you in the form that you will best understand. So again, I'll say it one last time. It's not just about skin color. There is a lot more behind the skin. Now, we can't talk about racial identity without talking about history. The story of black people across the world has been compressed into pain, slavery, colonization, oppression, all of that sort of stuff where it's a case of, all right, you've only just come from a place of lack, right? Now, those chapters might be real and deserve to be acknowledged, but they most certainly are not the whole book, okay? Now, before chains, there were crowns. Before plantations, there were palaces. Before oppression, there was innovation and community. Your identity doesn't start with pain, it starts with brilliance. We are the descendants of scientists, kings, queens, warriors, philosophers. Your blood carries the pulse of empires and the wisdom of elders. Now we have to stop reducing our story to a single chapter. Especially when that's a chapter that someone else's narrative controls. Which is why it's one of the good reasons, and I'm sure I will talk about this in one of these podcasts in this season, about understanding your history. You might be thinking, but Papa, I don't know my roots. Alright, fine. Maybe records were lost. Maybe your family doesn't talk about it, but even in the absence of documents, your roots are still alive in your spirit. You can learn through food. That pot of jollof rice or akara connects you to a lineage of hands that stirred and shared. You can learn through music, that drum beat that makes your heart pound, that call and response that calls your ancestors home. You can learn through language. Understanding another language tends to open the curiosity of the mind to understand, or at least find similarities between, your culture and the culture of that other tongue. Pick up a Yoruba proverb. Ask your elders questions. Go to community events. Every small step is progress on your intent. We live in a time where everything is blended. Globalization pushes us to assimilate, to fit in, to erase the parts that make us different. But my sons, assimilation is not the same as integration. To help out, I'll give you some definitions. The definition of assimilation is the process by which a minority group gradually adopts the customs, attitudes, and behaviors of the dominant culture, often at the expense of its own cultural identity. Integration is defined as the process where individuals or groups become a part of a society while retaining important aspects of their own culture. Integration is bringing your full self to the table without hiding or shrinking. It's saying, I can share this in this new world, but I don't have to erase where I came from. When you integrate, you stand taller, you inspire others, you show them that identity isn't a costume you wear for convenience, it's a second skin. Now, I'll talk about this in a subsequent episode in this season. I don't know, I'll probably title it something like integrate, don't assimilate. Yeah, something like that, right? Because integration is key in order to destroy negative racial stereotypes. There's been a lot of contention around immigration in recent years, and if you really listen to the biggest concern many have, it is that there are pockets of people who actively refuse to integrate into a certain area. And that is when the beginning of contention and strife occur. That then later escalates into something more ugly a lot later on. And if you think that immigration doesn't directly concern you because you were born and bred from where you are as a native, I hear you. But the problem will end up at your door when people jump to crazy conflations and conclusions, where they'll believe that all non-native of a state are now the enemy because of a small collective of people who, through a lack of integration, cause harm to the natives of an area, and the natives, be they the police or not, decide to push back directly to you in the form of violence or other forms of discrimination. One of the most powerful ways to honor your identity is to pass it forward. When you have children, teach them your language, even if it's just a few words. Tell them the stories. Let them hear the drums and smell the spices. Let them see you walk with pride so they can do the same. Your name carries weight. Teach them what it means. Every name has a meaning. Every name has a meaning in a native tongue. Right? It sounds so simple, but it's something that's so dear to anybody's heart. Your name is a part of you. So as such, if you want to teach as much to your children as possible, and I'm going to obviously specify here and say if you want to teach your sons as much as possible about themselves, as in their history, their where they're coming from, then you'll teach them about what their name actually means. Right? Of course they've got first names. Yeah, well they should. If they don't have first names, I can't help you. Yeah. But their surnames, right? That is the name and legacy. That's the one that's going to carry generations through. Teach them what it means. Right? And it's in that weight that you hold your own name in. They will do the same. Teach them why you carry your name. Our names are our first gift and our first declaration to the world. Now, anybody that's been a human being for longer than 2.2 seconds will know that we are not meant to live this life alone. In all areas of life, there is going to be something or somebody else outside of ourselves that is also going to help us get to where we want to. And this is no different. We are not meant to be doing this alone. Community keeps us grounded. Surround yourself with people who understand your journey, who celebrate your culture, and who challenge you to stand firm in your identity. Seek out elders who hold the stories. Create circles of brothers who hold you accountable. Lean into your community and in turn, pour into it. Seek out people who have understood and represent the good of a community and not the notoriety of one. As they say, iron sharpens iron. So connecting with the right people will also enhance them to be even better at being a beacon of the community, as well as you being able to better integrate those stories, that accountability to better serve that community. So if you pick the right people, you will get the right result. If you pick the negative people, don't expect the result to be good. Now, as always, I try to have some practical advice for you to take away from this podcast, because there's no point in me talking in all theories and stuff like that without actually giving some executable steps. So this is going to be broken down to a part A and part B. Now, the first part, aka part A, right? This week, I want you to do something intentional, right? I want you to ask an elder about their story. Could be any. Just ask them about, I say could be any, could be theirs. It's probably best as their story. Ask an elder about their story, okay? Share a meal from your culture with a friend. Learn one new word in your ancestral language. Then teach it to somebody else. That's part A. Part B, and this is more on the reflective side of things. How have you been hiding or minimizing your identity? How can you stand firmer and prouder? Write it down. Share it with your sons, your brothers, your circle. So here are my closing thoughts. Your identity is a treasure. It is not a burden. It is a weapon and a shield. It connects you to something greater than yourself. And I want you to remember this. Wherever you go, whoever you become, never forget where you come from. That is the source of your power. And it is in that power that you wield that you can also light the way for those that come after you. Until next time. Thank you for joining me today on For My Sons. I hope today's message challenged you, encouraged you, or gave you something worth passing down. If you found value in this episode, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss a new letter, a new lesson, or a new legacy moment. Until next time, be a communication CEO. Communicate clearly, communicate early, and communicate often. This is Papa O, and I am out.